Give us any chance, we'll take it. Read us any rule, we'll break it. We're gonna make our dreams come true.
Welcome to National Night, a podcast about 8 seasons in a row. I'm Fernandes, and
I am Christopher Jayawardena.
and we're here with two of our Weirdoes are missing, which is right in the middle of the pack of the second season of Laverne and Shirley. It was directed by Howard Storm and written by Bob Sand and Bo Kral, who happens to play Officer Norman Hughes in this episode and in multiple other episodes. He also worked as a season 1 and 2 story editor, and I bet you get some facts about them, don't you, Chris?
Yeah, I got a little bit about Bob Sand here. The Bob Sand co-writer here. Now, Bo worked on an episode of Welcome Back, Kotter, as well as the Carol Burnett Show. Meanwhile, Bob Sand ended up doing 51 episodes of writing on Madam's Place in 1982, and would go on to work on kind of an episode here or there, 3 episodes of Full House, bit of Good Company, George and Leo, and kind of taper off as the 2000s began. So about 20 years he's been out of the game. And yeah, Bo, most obviously we know as Norm from earlier episodes, and this is one of 2 episodes that he has writing credit on as well. And we will hopefully be getting to see a little more of him in the future. Howard Storm has been, this is, I think, another nice little bit of consistency for him for this particular season. He worked on, as well, Rhoda and Doc before this, and would end up going on to work on other shows such as Best in the West, and another 3 episodes of Full House, which makes you kind of wonder if him and Bob Sand were buddies. And then worked on shows like Valerie, Sugar and Spice, Good Grief, Major Dad, my goodness. And then lastly, at the end of his career, before retiring, he did 4 episodes of Keenan and Kel, which seems incredibly fitting that was one of my favorite sitcoms when I was a kid. And now I am watching one of the other sitcoms he worked on, which is becoming a favorite sitcom as an adult. Yes.
Yeah. If you really think about it, if you really sit down and think about it, the Nick-Coms and the Disney coms of the zeros and the tens kind of really inherited the mantle of like all those 90s sitcoms, which inherited the mantle of those 80s sitcoms like Perfect Strangers and everything, and those particular shows inherited the mantle from Laverne and Shirley.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of ways. And of course, the girls, get that mantle down from Lucy. But, yeah.
Yeah, because even though like Happy Days was obviously the tropes, I think, for like plots, as were other shows like Dave Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore, I think that the hijinks and Sue factor of Laverne and Shirley became very distinctive. It's something that of all the old timey shows I've seen, it's the one that seems to have been, especially given that it was very popular in its day, one of the most influential on the more modern sitcoms, and particularly the ones for kids that had a lot more physical comedy and a lot more action involved.
Yeah. There's such an obvious parallel between Sam and Cat, which starred Ariana Grande, I'm going to say like 5 years ago or so, that Cindy and Penny guest starred on an episode and reunited.
Yeah.
It was the last time they acted together, except for the Gary Marshall tribute episode of The Odd Couple, where they both appear in it, but they don't appear together and they don't spend time together on the Shirley scenes. So that's an interesting torch passing, I thought. That was really nice.
So anyway, episode 2 of our Weirdos are missing. What pray tell happens in this here episode?
One evening, Lenny and Squiggy come to Laverne and Shirley with clearly troubled minds, and an offer to attend circus together. The girls brush them off for what proves to be a disgusting evening, at least in Laverne's opinion, riding around town in Rosie Greenbaum's new Cadillac. Shirley awakens the next morning to a note scrawled on a paper bag left behind in the boys' apartment, announcing that they are going where the living is easy and the cotton is high, and they have run off with Zimmerman's circus. A frantic search causes the girls to realize the boys are in trouble at work and with Carmine, Edna, and Frank. On the verge of losing their jobs and behind the rent, the boys were under pressure from all sides, and the girls refusing to listen to them was the icing on the cake. Laverne's erstwhile cop boyfriend, Norman Hughes, manages to track Lenny and Squiggy down at the circus, where they're angling for jobs and planning to move out once the circus leaves town. Can the girls convince the boys to stay in town? What do you think of this episode?
Well, to see, the thing about this episode is that it's really quite good. I thought it was quite amusing, and I thought the dialogue was quite fantastic. And more seriously speaking, though, it's an adorable Lenny and Squiggy episode, which to me I find is a winner in that regard. And usually those ones work really well for me, especially through this particular season so far has worked really well.
Yeah.
I love the details of their characters, like the things that they did to get them in trouble. And it's even set up so well, like immediately when Rosie comes into their apartment and she's like, Lenny and Squiggy, you mean the ones who shellacked my ponytail? And it's like, whoa, like, that's hardcore pranking. I mean, these are the kind of folks that they do that kind of stuff with. And and even just how callous and kind of like, and they definitely do not look before they leap when immediately it's it's like, you mean the Rosie Greenbaum from the high school? Yeah. Is she still fat? And so it's so I love those details in there, and I thought it was cool that it's one of those episodes of a show where you have the character, the kind of the MacGuffin of the episodes discussed a lot, and then when you get to see them, they get to have their own bit. The vaudevillian circus act they're putting together, and the way it's falling apart in a very vaudevillian way is one of the biggest highlights of this episode. I really enjoyed it.
Oh yeah. I love this one too, for a lot of reasons. For the character dynamics, the boys and the girls sticking up for the boys in spite of themselves, in spite of the fact that they totally disgust them in a lot of ways and drive them crazy in a lot of ways. That these are their friends, that have become their friends, and they will stick their necks out to their parents, to their boyfriend, quasi-boyfriend, I suppose. God knows what's going on with Shirley and Carmine.
Mm-hmm.
And with even at work, which is saying something, because how much strife they go through at work in a lot of ways. The fact that they stick up for each other is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And the boys just being so miserable they can't even articulate it.
Yep.
But they turn to the girls for help. So they've kind of got like a tiny little family within the ensemble cast that makes up the broader family. It's kind of like tight four-way relationship where they're going to look out for each other, even as they prank each other, even as they tease each other, even as they say things like, you're plain and all that jazz, and you're disgusting. Did you give me a rash? But this is still their friends.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a darn good little episode for a lot of reasons.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and it's got great one-liners. I ain't crying, my nose is sweating. It's so good, and the bit about Squeaky always wanted to be a clown. I have a little red ball on my nose. Have some dignity for a change. It's
dignity for a change.
And the bury our wounds in cookies. I was gonna do a gag about that on the podcast, but I didn't have anything that would make a believable sound effect in here. I could have used like a pillow or some pieces of paper or something.
I was gonna say try to rip off the sound effect from the Dick Van Dyke Show when they had all those nuts falling down.
Yeah. Oh God, the walnut episode. I love that one.
Walnut episode. Me too.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll sitcom.
Yeah.
Beautiful show. Great show.
And even just I love how it's pretty clear that it's Shirley that puts it as they runned away, not that it's not on the paper. They actually said run away. It's so cute.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little character touches that happen in the dialogue in this episode that just make it super cute and super enjoyable.
Yes. Well, we learned that the boys tried to be hobos once. They got as far as the corner and they ran back home.
Oh, it's so
cute. During winter. It's so dumb. It's so dumb and it's so cute.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the little revelation of all the little high school dynamics that are still there in spite of themselves. And Laverne still can't stand Rosie. The boys still think of Rosie as, is she still fat? Is she still that person that we're still making fun of? And Rosie still wants revenge for having her ponytail shellacked, which I think was great. Like I said before, as much as the girls stick up for each other, them sticking up for the boys is a nice touch. It's kind of like the first time it really, really happens where they stick up for them. Because before, the boys are kind of like outside agitators to them. They're not their friends. They're these guys they went through high school with, these guys they went to school with. So actually, school started in elementary school.
Oh, wow.
That they've known since they were at least 6, and you know they've come to think of them as outsiders, and they're just getting closer and closer and becoming friendlier, and they're still like repulsed by them. But on the other hand, they know them. On the other hand, they're their friends.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I feel like this is an episode that really illustrates that well. That it's like they really, because they really go out on a limb at the end. They're going to help them out a bit with the money. They're going to talk to their friends and family about like how to try to get basically how to get them out of trouble. They do a lot for them.
Yeah.
And I think what's kind of nice about it is that it there are times when it comes to that type of help that you offer somebody, there's conditional and unconditional. And I feel like this is kind of that sweet spot in the middle where it's like a friend. I'm going to do this because you're my friend, which is somewhat conditional. But also that it's like, well, nobody deserves to have that bad of a day,
Yeah.
where you're drowning in your own tears,
Yeah.
and have wounds buried in cookies and so forth.
Yeah, well, they smashed a truck into a loading dock. They traded Carmine's record in.
Yep.
They screwed Edna on the rent, and they damaged the pizza bowl because they're always damaging the pizza bowl. I'm still amazed Frank only paid Squiggy not to date Laverne, and there was this problem. They say that sort of...
Wait.
Yes, that comes up.
Whoa.
That's right. It happens in season 3.
Okay. Wow. Did I just have a massive spoiler dropped on me?
Yeah. No, he paid her not. He paid Squiggy not to date her ever.
Wow.
And she was just like, I have to thank my pop for that one.
God.
I guess he never paid Lenny anything. Either he likes him better because, man, that doesn't happen there. We also learn here that Squiggy actually keeps live moths. Before, they were dead moths. Now he's breeding live moths in his apartment. He asks Shirley to feed them for him. I thought that was... We got a revelation in a couple of episodes about what moths mean to him.
That's right.
As Michael once put it, I'm going to quasi quote him here. It's the sad in the middle of the funny. And for Squiggy, that's definitely it. His layers will come off. Lenny's layers will come off. But this is the first time we go, wow, he's taking care of living creatures. He's taking care of tiny baby moths. And he makes sure that Shirley takes care of them. I thought that was a nice little detail. This episode is full of nice little details that are hilarious and yet sweet. It was kind of like a little poignant, a little bit.
Oh, certainly, yeah. I mean, it even comes back to even an interesting detail that kind of is sort of a necessary setup for later is, when I was rewatching this episode, my mother brought up an interesting question when watching this, which is, why is Rosie still spending time with them, and why did she invite them out? I mean, obviously, it could be just like it's to her, it's charity, it's my good deed for the week or something like that. But it's but that's kind of the thing is like as you were saying, there's like this weird there's a dynamic and almost like a camaraderie that is kind of there, like a connection that even if we don't always get along, even if they're a nuisance and you annoy, or you fight, or you scuffle, but that you're there, you're part of something special. Like there is a connection there, and like those elements come through. I mean, especially like I even love the delivery of the line when they find them at the circus at the conclusion of "We've been looking all over for you." It's said with a very warm, "I'm happy to see you." It's not judgmental. It's a very sweet sense of worry that in the delivery.
Oh yeah, there's something that you can see the friendship. The friendship is percolating. The friendship is cooking, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's what I gotta say. It's really nice. It's really, really nice. This episode is so funny for multiple reasons. Like, it's the big things, like Squiggy blowing his nose, throwing the tissue into Laverne's purse, and just continuing out this story while she has a complete face journey of utter horror. And then this has happened. Oh. And she's trying to be patient and listen to him, yet she's totally disgusted and wants to punch him in the face. And it's so great. Right. It's just so great.
Yeah,
that's my favorite example of little comedic bit in this episode.
Yep. Yeah, there's an excellent energy throughout that I think carries in the way that everything just kind of feels a little infused with a special something. It's the facial expressions. I love the energy in the wake up scene the following day when they've run away, and it's like Laverne, wake up, and Laverne's like, it's like, call the brewery. I'm late. I know. I'm on the way. And then it's like, no, it's Saturday. It's like, why did you wake me up? And she looks at the clock. It's not even time for Sky King. And.
Yeah.
It's like those little sweet little cute moments like just happen throughout, and then the
Oh yeah.
and like we were talking about the moths. I love that it's like don't forget and please feed my moths. And Cheryl immediately goes, I did that, and it's like of course it's like of course you did.
Of course she did.
And
it's definitely something she would do, and
Yep.
it's definitely a favor that he knew she would do for him, which I think is sweet. Yeah.
Yep. And then the the bit with with Frank, and it's like, I'm not your father, I'm a janitor, and that's great.
Me for your muffin, for your little muffin, please.
Oh God, she milks it so good. I love it.
I
love
know. I love everything about that scene. This is the first time Norman kind of comes into the apartment and sees the girls, of course, sort of in their natural habitat with their friends around them and their family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's the first time he meets Frank under the worst possible circumstances. And Frank is not here for a meeting Norman, even though Norman's trying to get a good impression on the father of this woman he likes. And it's great. Edna taking no crap from him.
Mm-hmm.
I get your badge number, Charlie.
My name's Officer Hughes.
Yes. And then Carmine telling him not to touch him. And starts roasting Carmine's fashion sense.
God. Yeah, Edna is just glorious here. In the scene, and Frank's great. The timing is everything in this episode in general, but yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
Edna's amazing. Even Carmine gets a great moment here, and this is one of the few times where I don't have anything bad to say about Carmine, because I totally understand what he's upset about. I get it, man. It's not that ain't good. I've had that happen to me. I've had people borrow stuff, either never return it or sell it or something. I've had that.
Yeah.
Gotten in trouble
you can't
for it.
stand there humming. Oh God, it's awful.
Yeah.
You can't stand there humming all day, and the boys doing that without thinking is very much them, and very some of their self-centered worst.
Right.
Which is like they have their good side and they have their bad side, and that's them at their classic worst. They do way worse things actually coming up, but yes.
Yep. It makes you agree with the circus ringleader has got the second policy, fire the stupid.
Yes. Yeah, hire the unusual, fire the stupid, which is a great line. Great line. I love that Shirley has this absolute faith in Dirk Sampson. Dirk Sampson is going to call her. Dirk Sampson's going to call her, and he does. And he does call her, and they go on a date, and he's head over heels for her. And it's a really fun tiny little subplot that just goes all the way through the episode. It's really fun.
Yep, I love the payoff of that is really cute, and that's actually one of the things I enjoy. I love the. What's my note here that describes it? Yeah, well played, Shirley. It's like a little cold, and then she warms it up to him, and it takes him off guard. And as I keep saying, Shirley is about control, and she totally pulls the rug out from under him, takes control of the situation. And I love that he's even kind of like stumbling up the stairs, she just knocks him off his feet,
Yeah.
I love that. And even, her response when, is he a good kisser? It's like, well, he's a pro, isn't he?
Yeah, it's a great line. A fabulous line. It's perfect. It's a perfect line, and just like, yeah.
To follow up on that is how you get to see their expressions of romance and sexuality with the two girls in this episode, with the way Shirley does it there, and also the way that Laverne does it with Norman. My God, that scene just kills me. And especially it just escalates. It's like one kiss, all right, 5 minutes, another kiss, all right, 10 minutes, and then the whisper, and he's like, I'll be here when you get back.
yeah. That's how you do it. There's this running joke in the fandom that these girls have to be dynamite kissers to get all these guys to do basically anything in the world for them but kiss. And that's,
Well, the Fonz probably trained them well.
Hey. Oh, yeah. There's the Fonz. I can remember it's him saying Laverne has the best elves in town now, really. I think that's from the upcoming. I think that's from Shotgun Wedding. I think.
Well, I was just moving on to the boys getting to actually see them at the circus.
Yes, that's great. There are so many classic lines, especially from Squiggy in this particular scene. Like, boys and girls and children of all religions, and there's a lot. There's a lot. And then Lenny reminds me he's a sad clown. He goes, "Oh, boys and girls, what happened?"
Yeah.
Like,
and then what's happening? It's like, what are you doing here?
It's like the way David delivers that line is so perfect. I'll always say that he was massively underrated in this show. He is so good. He embodies Squiggy so thoroughly and so constantly throughout the show's run, and his timing is excellent, and his delivery is excellent, and he's just he's so much fun to watch, and this is an absolutely excellent example of that.
Agreed. Yeah. And their whole bit, getting to see these two guys get to do a bit. I mean, this shows you why Lenny and Squiggy were such strong characters. They needed to be in this show. They balance out the show. They work with the show really well. And they also you understand why they wanted to spin them off, because they're so good together as a duo. I mean, the whole juggling act is great. It's so vaudevillian it's like, all right, and you need to feed me the rest of the oranges. It's like, you want them peeled? And it's like, no, it's just it's a juggling term. I just want you to toss them to me. And it just chucks the whole basket at him. It's like, oh, well then, I mean, that timing.
One at a time, dummy. One at a time, dummy.
It's so good.
So good.
Yeah. It's so good. Yeah. And the timing is amazing, that bit. And to the point that it's like, you can tell they were hamming it up for the audience, the live audience for the show really well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Michael must have written down juggling on his list of talents for Gary Marshall. Gary Marshall had everybody in the cast write their talents down. And then he said, I'm going to have the writers weave these into episodes. So you can do these things, because I know you can do these things, well, I can do these things. And he must have written down juggling, because he juggles twice in the season.
Oh.
It's coming up later.
Oh.
It's coming up later in the season. And we will get there soon.
Cool.
I just thought that was a funny little detail. I love the bit where the girls impersonate the boys. And they're asked to describe them.
Oh yeah.
They go, one of them has a little hair worm going down here, and they go, yeah. The way Shirley impersonates the way Lenny bites his hand is hilarious.
It's perfect, especially because she gets the eye bulge just right too.
Yes, yeah, and she does that later. She gets to do that again in season 4.
Oh, good.
And it's great the way you do the disgusting. You always do. No, sure, I think I've outgrown that. Future spoilers.
Oh dear. Oh boy.
Future spoilers for a good episode. The show's Aesop is really, really nice. In that it says, pay attention to people when they are in pain, listen to them. Or the situation will get more ridiculous. Because ultimately, Shirley gets her golf pro, but Laverne might as well have stayed home. She got stuck ankle knee-deep in mud, jacking up Rosie's car, changed her tire. And that's all she got out of that evening. So really, she could have stayed home with the boys, listened to them, and gone to the circus with them. And Shirley could have gone with Rosie, and they both would have been happy. But, that shows, the lesson is listen to the people around you when they're in pain. It was a really well-delivered Aesop. We talked about how awkward last episode's Aesop was. This one's perfectly delivered.
Yep. Yeah, it lands where it's got to. Yeah.
Yeah. Dead on delivery. You care about your friends, you listen to them, you help them. It's just that simple. When the show keeps it simple, it's perfect.
Yep. Agreed. Speaking of keeping things simple, I forgot to mention the actor playing the circus leader. That was Carl Ballantine, who was one of the main regulars on McHale's Navy in the 60s.
Yeah!
And
I didn't know that.
so that's just a quick bit of trivia. He is fantastic with the one scene that he gets. He is
Yeah.
he is absolutely hysterical. His delivery is great. He also helps introduce that their version of the circus is going to be very big and broad in vaudeville. So it helps build up
Yeah.
where the boys get to go in their segment of just a few minutes later. It's pretty good. And yeah, he's quite. It's good to get some TV TV legend in there to make make it happen, make a good time of things.
Yeah. They called in a lot of different legends for show business. Like we had that choreographer direct an episode in season 1, and we have a lot of Hollywood legends who bop in and bop out of the show, and it's really nice. And it's kind of bestows a bit of royalty upon the show in a way. The one thing that stands out for me in this episode, though, is that the girls are so excited to go joyriding in this Cadillac. They have their own car. And the show kind of like conveniently forgets they don't have a car. And then they remember they have a car, and they forget they have a car. I thought it was interesting just because it was a Cadillac. I don't know. But, yeah. Especially because it's Rosie's Cadillac. But I thought it was interesting they were so interested in... Well, Shirley was to be in this car when they have their own car. Yes.
I mean, it's a case of that. At least, okay. So from my perspective, with the people that I know, I the folks that I know that are of the generation of folks that basically people who grew up in the 50s and 60s. A lot of them have their story of getting to drive in an old 50s Cadillac, and these were smooth rides for comfort, the feel compared to all the other cars that were out there. So it's an interesting, as you pointed out, it's an interesting detail about like the sense of luxury, the sense of getting to be glam, to be dressed up, and and trying to and it seems like it's very much like, again, in Shirley's head, I think it's like the thought of like, oh, I can get the doctor, oh, I can get the golfer, oh, I can get the somebody, to get the get that ring from that good guy, that upscale guy, the college graduate.
Yeah, the picket fence, the babies.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point that I wasn't thinking about. The Laverne doesn't matter, plus it's Rosie, and that's why her reaction is the way her reaction is.
Yeah.
I was only going to say that I really love Rose's dress in this episode. It's really pretty. I was going to give a special shout out to costume.
Yes.
Costume design in this episode was really good. Surprisingly, this was not the episode that they were nominated for costume winners. It shocked me. Because the costumes in this one are really, really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, even the clown outfit at the end is great, and and the kind of lightning juggler outfit. I mean, it's got some great looks in this show, and this episode particularly is really good. But I was just actually going to say about Rosie herself is just God. Carol did an amazing job in this episode. It feels a little more like, I think that there's a little zap, a little zing. I think Howard Storm had been able to direct her already as the character, but it definitely shows a little extra oomph in there. Like that line, you got to advertise a little bit, put the goods in the window, and Laverne's comeback is amazing.
Everything about that scene is great. Like, Carolina White is so good. She's amazing, and her performance is stellar. Consistently stellar throughout the series. So, this is just one more example of how great she is, how great she is in the show.
Yeah, it's still it just asks the question, though, is like, it's like I felt like, because I know we're going to get there, that there's something kind of coming up that's almost like a payoff to this as to why is Rosie continuing to spend time with them? Why did she invite them? That was a question my mother asked. Since we have to cover fan questions, my mother asked this question. And it's kind of like, I guess I told her my answer was like, it's kind of a payoff coming up. I don't want to say what it is, but it's like there's sort of a if not a reason, there's an inferred reason, that you kind of feel.
Exactly. Absolutely. It's kind of like sandbox love. Sandbox love is why the boys have been hanging out since even before they knew the girls, apparently, because when Lenny does an impression for Squiggy's father of how he used to come over and ask him to play, he's very, 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 very tiny, like roughly around 3 or 4. So he probably knew him since kindergarten or so. Mm-hmm. And then the girls came in first grade, and then going through school with each other. And that's how they all know each other. So that confers a sense of loyalty that is very interesting, I thought.
That's kind of the interesting, as we were talking about dynamics, is like you have the two pairs of Laverne and Shirley, Lenny and Squiggy, and that's one particular bond and core. You have the four of them as another core, where there's almost these cross sections. You have their kind of main friends group, which is like, say, Carmine and Edna and Pop, and then past that is then kind of the other tertiary characters, such as Rosie as one example. Lucille to an extent, although I haven't seen her really interact with the others yet. Norman would fall into that category as well. Like kind of the regulars. So it's just interesting. You can see kind of the dynamic of kind of the cast listing. I guess in many ways you're seeing the call sheet dynamic as you're going through. But this is one that I felt, I agree. I think it kind of illustrates a little bit of like there's a little more layering going on. There's a sense of like you can feel the bond, which is so tight.
Yeah.
Because these people are present in your life at major turning points. When you move from one level of school to the other, or they're there when there's a divorce, or they're there when there's an abusive situation. If there was any childhood injuries, then they all remember, at school telling each other about it. Going to dances together in high school, or all those facets, and they also know about each other through other people, and they talk to each other about the other people. Be able to tell the stories. I mean, like Carmine heard from Rosie about one of the girls being in trouble, and look before you leap. And like that's an interesting thought that Carmine would first of all would give her the time of day to speak to her at all, or listen to what she's saying. Then of course when he hears obviously what it was, he takes much more attention to it. But anyway, it's just it's absolutely fascinating.
Yes, it is, honestly. It honestly is. I love how we're kind of thrust into this dynamic anyway. We don't, get to see them as kids, really tiny kids. We get to see them as teenagers at one point. But the dynamic is just there. It's well understood and it's well formed, even though we're kind of like thrown into their lives in their 20s. And that's one of the reasons why I enjoy episodes like this so much. Because it's just a perfect little encapsulation of this stuff.
Totally.
It really is. I think that's it for this particular.
Oh well,
we gotta rate it.
You gotta rank it though. Yeah. What? So you go ahead first. I like to hear your ranking first.
That's a solid 9 for me. There's a lot of great stuff in this episode. A lot of great stuff. There's everything from the girls kind of teaming up and realizing, okay, we gotta save the boys, even though the boys drive us crazy. Let's go save the boys. The boys being themselves and being impossible yet vulnerable. Everybody gets a good moment, all the supporting characters. A lot of great Rosie stuff here. The circus setting is used pretty well. I could have done without the girls getting mashed by 6 clowns in the trailer. Otherwise,
yeah.
It's the only part I didn't like.
Yeah. That's that. I think it was that reason for me to take it down to like a 8.5, kind of a 9, but a 8.5 for me. But no, I love the stuff that works in this so well. The character stuff, like this is one of those like definitive episodes that you could probably like if I was to make a Laverne and Shirley inspired story or movie, this is one of the episodes I would actually study regularly to get all the character stuff about them down, but just leave out the whole circus performer, attempted gang mashing.
That is the worst part of the episode. The show's weird relationship with rape culture is weird. I don't want to say it's weird. It's just typical of the 70s. It's typical of the vaudeville stuff. It's typical of the 70s. We didn't examine the stuff till later, culturally.
Yeah.
I mean, we were just, we were still in the rape is romance era. Luke and Laura were becoming a huge thing around the same time period, and that was like, rape turns into romance, and then they dealt with it in the 90s when they had time to step back and go, whoops.
Yep.
And so we get this stuff a lot. I say a lot. We get this stuff in the show, and it's unfortunate, and it's this worst possible part of the show most of the time. But, so there's other stuff in the episode that always that usually makes it worthwhile. And you gotta remember that this is the unfortunate error that we are stuck in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's I mean, I've brought this up before. I'm a fan of like grindhouse movies. I mean, at the time I'm actually recording this, I'm actually still prepping to do a podcast on a horror. We'll be on a horror podcast. We're going to talk about Italian cannibal movies, which actually had like real animal violence in it. And it's like, these are the parts of the past, of the history that you just kind of have to understand. I guess you have to understand it. You have to decide how much you're willing to accept. And so it'll be interesting to kind of see it from our audience, over time, like, is things like this, especially as it's become a consistent trope within this show, for anyone else that's also going through along with, like, say with me as a first timer to the show, if this ends up bucking anyone away from it, because, there's some material it's really hard to go back to because of that content.
Yeah. I always warn people about this in this episode. This is unfortunate. There's 3 episodes where it's like played for laughs and it's not good and it's a nightmare. And, the show has a lot of beautiful feminist moments in it. The show has a lot of like very early girls, you don't have to marry this guy because your father wants you to get married. And yet it also plays into the I will get married, I have to get married, I need to get married. It's kind of caught between wanting to make this strong feminist statement about being single and loving it and having a hell of a fun time with your best friend and not giving a damn about marriage and the future and all that stuff. And I must have baby. I must get married.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like the show kind of sometimes pulls itself apart in those 2 opposing directions.
Right.
And it depends on the episode. And there's a whole episode where they say, hey, this is bad. Don't do this. And yet, it keeps happening in the show. It just keeps happening.
Right. And so, because it's like, is it a step forward? Is it a step back? Or 2 steps forward, 1 step back? Or what have you? It feels like it's diagonal, Yeah. It's a
trapezoid.
Yeah.
Box step.
There you go.
Box step. Just go around the square.
But yeah, I mean, this episode, that all being said, it's a fun episode. There's wonderful bits about it. Hopefully folks take a look and check it out. I mean, obviously it was definitely one of the ones we got to enjoy going through, given how long we've been talking about it. This is a little longer than our usual episodes now. So this is just good stuff. We greatly enjoy these, and it's always good to see the little bits of, Laverne and Shirley getting along with Lenny and Squiggy. They're a wonderful couple of like a double duo, which is a wonderful dynamic to see, and you really get to see it in action here. It's really cute.
Yes, definitely. Pick up this episode. It's a great little episode. If you're starting out the show, this is actually a pretty good bottle episode. We got another pretty good episode coming up that's really nails the dynamics of the whole cast and the whole show. And that's coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, I think I know which one I might know which one you're talking about.
Yes. It's not the one coming up next, but it's coming up.
Yeah. Hey. And with that, I guess, thank you everyone again for so much for joining us. And it's always good to have you along, especially for a journey like this one. If you'd like to know more, if you'd like to keep in touch with us on social media, we can be found at Night After Night PC on Twitter, or we can also be found at Night After Night Pod on places such as Facebook and Tumblr. We also have a Patreon that also has got some nice little incentives there. And we also have our WordPress if you would like to find alternate ways to listen to this episode. We mostly put these up through Anchor, but we also have these episodes up through different services such as YouTube and Apple Podcasts and MP3 downloads off the WordPress site and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's going to be the main thing from us. Well, yeah. Is there any other sign off message? Any other last little comments? Oh, I do have one which is from towards the end of my notes. I love there's that line of when Squiggy and Lenny are thanking them, and it's like, on behalf of Lenny and myself, and his hand gesture is on the wrong person.
Yeah.
That he's emphasizing.
He points to himself when he says Lenny, and he points to Lenny when he says himself and smacks him right in the chest.
Yeah.
He just winces.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just another example. Then he sends Lenny to go hug the girls. He
Right.
makes Lenny go hug the girls because he's not good at the emotional stuff. So he goes and makes Lenny hug the girls, and neither of them wants to be hugged by him. That'll
Right.
change as time goes on. That'll change as time goes on.
Yeah.
Because
Eh,
there is plenty of hugging that's coming up. There's plenty of hugging that's coming up.
Yeah. I'm
The
looking.
girls stop being afraid to hug the boys.
I'm looking
and stuff
forward to
like
that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
That's all this week.
Excellent. And I guess, with that nice little uplifting message, we sign off by saying, go hug it out, everybody. I mean, actually, no, wait, what am I saying? We're still in the pandemic. Hug at a safe social distance of 6 feet.
Wave at a respectable distance to your friends, folks. Goodbye.